Welcome to Inviting Oneness, a podcast where we explore true personal stories from friends and members of EquaSion. Stories where the illusion of separateness gave way to the deeper truth of our shared humanity. Oneness isn't an idea, it's an experience. And today we continue listening for it, one story at a time. Today's episode is with Rabbi Shirah C Kraus. Shirah currently serves as the part-time rabbi for Temple Shalom in Lafayette, Louisiana, as well as the youth group advisor and teen coordinator for Rockdale Temple in Cincinnati, Ohio.
So when I was little, every night before bed, my parents would do a prayer with me, the Jewish prayer, the Shema, which means, Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. And so from a very early age, I had this sense of oneness and peace tied to this prayer, but also beyond this prayer. And I still, sometimes I forget, but I still say this prayer every night before I go to bed. And, fast forward a few years, several years, my sister was born when I was 12. And I remember saying the Shema to her. And that was a really special moment of feeling connected to her and feeling connected to the Jewish people, past, present, future, and really to the whole world and to God and to the oneness of all things. And then also at Jewish summer camp, my counselors would say this prayer for me and my fellow campers before we went to bed. And they'd come around and say goodnight to everybody. And then when I got to be a counselor, I got to say this prayer to my campers. And so this continuing generation to generation. And then most recently, I had a moment. I have two young nieces. One is 3.5 and the other is 8 months old right now. And sometimes I help out with bedtime or babysitting. And I had this moment recently where I was doing the Shema with my niece, Shifra. And I just felt just so much love and peace and oneness and connection and silliness too, because she's trying to avoid going to bed, and then we're blessing people in our family and kind of taking turns and this particular time too. So I started to do one tune of the Shema. I started to say Shema Yisrael, which is like the more traditional one, and she stopped me and she's like, no, that's not the one we do in synagogue. I was like, well, which is the one that you want to do? And so she started it this way, where she said, shh, which is like this kind of more meditative way of starting it, really emphasizing each syllable. And then this tune that is, composer is Pick is the last name, and it goes, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu. So she was very particular. It had to be the right tune. And I just felt like, wow, it's amazing that this 3.5-year-old has a tune that she has to have, and that this prayer that's been a part of our tradition for centuries is constantly being reimagined and evolving and, part of our life right now too. So I think for me, the oneness is about being connected to my family right now, right here, but also these many generations and being a part of it.
You said that you prayed this for Shifra, for your sister, that other people prayed it for you. What are the mechanics of that? Is there an implication of blessing that person with those words? Kind of how does that work mechanically?
The tradition in Judaism is that it's a prayer that we say every morning and every night. And it's also the prayer that's customarily said, it's the last prayer you say before you die. And that's actually kind of connected to saying ancestors had this fear that they would go to bed and something could happen. So if you're saying the Shema every night and you die in your sleep, then that's the last thing you said. The mechanics of it are just kind of singing it, like singing a lullaby, really, but it can evolve. So when kids are really young, you're singing it to them. But then now my niece is a little bit older. It's like we're actually singing it together, or maybe she's singing it to me. We're praying it together. But it does feel like an offering. I remember, especially when I was a camp counselor, there's a specific tune that we did that goes, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. So that was the specific camp nighttime. We would do Shema in the morning too and do a different tune, but that was the bedtime Shema tune that we did. And so there's like an association there. And so the kids could sing along. They probably would. A lot of them would. But it's also like you're leading that prayer, and it's an offering of peace and lullaby and just sweetness before bed.
The thing that I was drawn to in your story was Shifra wanting to really emphasize these three different syllables. That's really interesting to me because the first word of the Shema is listen.
Yes.
Right? And it
so
feels like shh, listen,
Yeah.
So
and
I
then,
mean,
like you have to savor it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then,
So,
it's like the breath. Yeah.
yeah, amazing. So, big philosophical question for you here. What does listening have to do with oneness?
I think has everything to do with, because I think listening, Shema, listen, hear, heed, but I think it's about being in tune, being aware and in tune. It's a mindfulness thing, and the Shema is, I know my niece learned that from somewhere, because I think that folks who are trying to connect Jewish liturgy and prayer to mindfulness, to like intersecting with some of what we know today in other traditions of being mindful and in tune. But it's about like the oneness is there, but are we always aware of it? And so for me, the Shema, it's a grounding. It's like, hey, listen up. Like usually there's like an exclamation point of like, listen up. And it's like being in tune and aware and like listening with all of our senses. Like that's often associated with hearing, and it's customary to close your eyes when you pray the Shema so you can really listen. But I think that we can listen and pay attention with all of our senses to the oneness that's around us: sight, smell, touch. But even the kind of sixth sense of just like the spiritual, metaphysical awareness of how we're all connected. And I think it starts with by like the pausing, like even just taking time, setting aside a time to say the prayer. It's like we're pausing and we're sinking into a mindful attunement with the oneness of our people, our world, all creatures, really. People say that the Shema is like the watchword of our faith, or it's a very big prayer that it's like one of the main ones, maybe the main one. And saying that God is one is another way of saying that we are all one.
That's where I was going to go with it, actually, because I think there is one way to hear this emphasis on monotheism, of oneness of God, as sort of an exclusive statement. Like, our God is the one, maybe is the way you could say it, right? But that's not at all how you're translating it. So make the connection here for me between the oneness of God and what that invitation is to the rest of humanity.
I mean, I think, yeah, you could interpret it that way. I prefer not to. In Hebrew, the word echad, one, is also related to the word yachid, which means like singular, like only. And there definitely is a tradition of, before there was monotheism, there was something called monolatry, which is not that there's only one God, but there's many gods. It's just that our God is the best one, the supreme one. But earlier on in the Israelite tradition, there was like, this is our God. And like he, for lack of a better pronoun, is the best one and better than all the other gods. But then that evolved to like there being a one God. So yeah, you could interpret it that way. I prefer not to. And your question was, how does that connect to the oneness of humanity? Well, I think you bring up a really important point, because I think people talk about unity and people talk about solidarity. And sometimes the word unity I'm skeptical of, because does that mean, oh, we want everyone to just like follow the dominant narrative or erase difference? And I don't think that's a good thing. And so I think the way I like to understand unity and oneness is kind of like, what we have on our currency of e pluribus unum, like one from many, that we contain multitudes as individuals and as a people and as humanity and as all creation. And we're also all connected. Actually, I've learned this from some of my Muslim colleagues, that we're all kind of parts of the same body. And so we're different parts, but if your arm is injured, your whole body is suffering. And there's also a thread in Judaism of chosenness too. And how do we understand that and grapple with that in the modern era? And lately I've been thinking about that as like we all have a unique role to play. We all have a calling. We all have a purpose as individuals and as groups in this world, but we're all hopefully working toward a greater good and toward what's best for all humankind. And so to me, it's about thinking, how are we bringing our individuality and our uniqueness to a greater whole? And it's holding both truths. Like, we are different, and I don't want to erase anybody's differences that are so beautiful and powerful. We're also all deserving of dignity and love. There's a Jewish text that says we're created in the image of God, and like, if you think about money, coins minted and for a president or a king or whatever, they all look in that image of that person. All the coins look the same. But if we're coins minted in the image of God, and we're all different, but we're all in the image of God. And so I love that story, because it's like, we are all in the image of God, and that image is so many.
I have an uncomfortable question for you.
Great,
Okay?
let's go.
This is the closer. I know that you have your own contemplative practice, and I also know that you are a singer and a musician.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if you, as the closer, could sing the Shema, however, like whatever version you want, to us in a way that invites an experience of oneness for people who are listening.
I would love to. That's not uncomfortable at all, Joey.
All right.
No, I love to sing. I love to sing. I love to share my music. I think I'm going to have to go with the version that Shifra compelled me to do in her honor. So I'll do it for her. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Thanks for joining us on Inviting Oneness, where we share real stories of connection that dissolve the illusion of separation and reveal our common humanity. If this episode moved you and you'd like to get involved, visit us at EquaSion.org. Until next time, may we keep inviting oneness within ourselves and with one another.